Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And in today's episode, the Phils have added more to the bullpen and potentially the rotation. We'll break it down on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on 97.5 The Fanatic doing Philadelphia Sports Talk Radio for 5 years now. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 3 seasons. And this is my 3rd year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing if you're listening to this in podcast form, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. It really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies. Locked On Phillies. I don't know, I said that so weird. And that'll also get you, when you subscribe to the YouTube, notifications when new episodes are posted, so you're up to date on all the big news on the Philadelphia Phillies. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Go ahead and check out our friends over at GameTime. First and foremost, Merry Christmas Eve. It is the day before one of the biggest holidays on the calendar, the biggest to some. And we're putting out this episode. We're going to also, I'm going to try and put something out tomorrow. Now, I have to do stuff with my family and everything too, but I'm going to, because a lot of stuff's going on with the Philadelphia Phillies. Dave Dombrowski recently spoke. So I'm going to try to get an episode out tomorrow. If I don't, I'll be right back on Thursday, the day after Christmas. But wanted to get this out for you today because yesterday I recorded an episode around 4, posted it a little bit later because I had some other work stuff I had to get done. And by the time I had posted it, it was already obsolete because we talked a little bit about what's next for the Philadelphia Phillies. Well, what's next was making a signing for Joe Ross, who we're going to talk about in today's episode. We're also going to talk about Dave Dombrowski updating us on Andrew Payter and his status ahead of the 2025, well, really 2025 spring training ahead of that, and we'll see what happens for the season. And then we've got to reset kind of what's next after this because the Philadelphia Phillies traded for Jesus Luzardo on Sunday. And then they went out and they signed Joe Ross yesterday on Monday. That was about 6 p.m. that they got that deal done. And my response to the Jesus Luzardo trade was, hey, now the rotation seems to be pretty set. Go address either the bullpen or get this Alec Bohm trade done if you're going to do it. And the Philadelphia Phillies must have heard me immediately before I even posted the episode. I think I got like a wired line into my podcast recording or something like that. Now, this is just Dave Dombrowski making moves the way Dave Dombrowski knows how to do. So Merry Christmas Eve once again. Hopefully you're having a fun time celebrating with your family and loved ones and have a safe and happy holidays, whichever holidays you celebrate. Let's jump into the Joe Ross signing because this is basically a holiday for me. Well, when the Phillies make moves that help the Major League roster. And I do think the Joe Ross signing helps the Major League roster. Now, this is potentially the least impactful move the Philadelphia Phillies have made at the Major League level this offseason, or it could be one that ends up being a little bit more beneficial than it looks right now. So who is Joe Ross? Because you may not know the name. He was out of baseball for a couple years, out of baseball. He did not play during COVID. He opted out during the pandemic, so he didn't play in the 2020 season. Then 2015 through 2019, he had played in Washington. He came back and played for the Nationals in 2021. So you might know him from seeing him against the Phillies a couple times. Then 22 and 23 did not play. In 2024, as I hit my microphone, I do that far too often. 2024, he was with the Milwaukee Brewers last year. So Joe Ross is interesting because he's this swing starter reliever guy. Think Spencer Turnbull, think Matt Strom, think guys like that. Now, probably not as talented as those guys. Those guys have given you a lot over the past couple seasons. Strom still with the organization. Turnbull not with the organization anymore. But Michael Lorenzen, another one. He's a guy that can both start and relief. Last year for the Milwaukee Brewers, after 2 years of not pitching at the major league level, he had a 3.77 ERA. He appeared in 25 games. 10 of those starts. So you had a situation where he ended up with 74 innings, even though he only had, like I said, those 25 games appeared in. So he had scoreless innings in 12 of his 15 relief appearances. Then he had the 10 starts. He was pretty balanced in the way that Milwaukee used him. As far as the numbers are concerned, that 3.77 ERA, it's not anything crazy. You're not going to write home the mom about the 3.77 ERA, but he's a serviceable pitcher in the bullpen that you're seeing as a guy that could be kind of useful in major emergency circumstances. That's how we'll put it, right? He's not going to be one of your high leverage bullpen arms. As a righty, he's kind of the righty version of, I don't know if I want to say Tanner Banks, because Tanner Banks is a lefty specialist, and Joe Ross isn't exactly like this righty specialist. Go to him in spots where you need someone to just go get a batter. But he's kind of that level of relief pitcher where you say, okay, you're probably not giving us more than one at any point, but you're probably not a guy that we're worried about putting out there, and you're a guy that we want stretched out to be a starter, but we might not use you too long in relief in the bullpen. He's just a very versatile guy, and I don't know exactly what his role on this team is going to be. He could be a guy that they use if injuries happen to the starting rotation. Part of that's going to be based on what Dave Dombrowski told us about Andrew Payner, because I told you as recently as yesterday's episode, if a guy goes down in the starting rotation, now that you have Luzardo and Suarez and Sanchez and Nola and Wheeler, the next guy in there is Andrew Payner. Well, now that may change based on what Dave Dombrowski had to say yesterday. So we'll update you on that when we get into the Andrew Payner segment. But strikeouts, 66 and 74 innings. In 2021, he had 109 strikeouts on 108 innings. He is normally right around a strikeout per inning or a little bit less than a strikeout per inning guy, which is, good. It's not anything crazy. It's not Jesus Luzardo, 200 plus strikeouts last year or 2 years ago. He's just a solid righty arm where his biggest value is that he can get outs, and he can get outs as a starter or a reliever. That is interesting, right? What exactly does that mean for the Philadelphia Phillies? The whole what's next conversation we'll get into when it comes to the whole roster, but you already have 5 starters. And you have a guy in Matt Strahm who has started before for this organization. And you have a guy in Andrew Payter who could come up at some point. And you have a guy in Taijuan Walker who is still under contract with his team, who's going to fight for a spot as a pitcher in some capacity in spring training, or at least we believe he's going to make it to spring training and have that chance to win a job doing something, whatever that may be. Nothing's guaranteed to him. But now you add in this guy, Joe Ross, to the bullpen and to the mix. And okay, you're just further shoring up the rotation as far as what could go wrong, right? Let's say you have an injury. The Phillies lose, Christopher Sanchez for a month. Yeah, knock on wood, don't want that to happen. Previously, your options would have been, okay, we can either go back to Taijuan Walker if he's still on the team, but you'd have to keep his contract, and they're going to have to keep his contract anyway because it's guaranteed money, but you'd have to keep him somewhere where he's on the 40-man so he could be elevated, and he'd have to agree to go to the minor leagues. I believe he doesn't have any options left. There'd be a lot of stuff that would have to happen for Taijuan Walker to be this just waiting in the wings guy that you could pitch. Andrew Payner, he is a young pitcher that is immensely talented, that has not pitched at the major league level yet. You could bring him up. That would seem to be the most likely option. But now you have another one. If a guy goes down, Joe Ross can slide out of the bullpen. It is much easier to bring up somebody to relieve than it is to start. So now you fill that role. It's like this is a break in case of emergency, Joe Ross, at least as far as starting is concerned. And what you get out of him in the bullpen is whatever. I think he's going to be very similar to last year's Jose Ruiz, if that makes sense. Jose Ruiz turned into a great arm, but he was a guy that was just kind of like, get us the 6th, get us the 7th, if guys don't have long starts. That's what I think Joe Ross is going to be to start, and then if injuries happen again, you'll move him into the starting rotation. Dave Dombrowski wanted a swing starter. They said it was on their wish list, and they went out and they accomplished that just before Christmas, just like me getting your gifts last minute. Hey, if it works, it works. So I don't expect to see Joe Ross jerseys. I don't expect to have like a Joe Ross tribute video. If the year is up, 1 year, $4 million deal, by the way, for Joe Ross. If that year goes by and the Phillies say, okay, we're going to let you walk in free agency, I don't think people will be crying for Joe Ross. Like, I don't expect him to be a fan favorite. I just expect him to be one of those pieces on the team that you don't feel like you need until you do. And those are the pieces that good general managers and presidents of baseball operations bring in before you need to go search them out so the price doesn't get like ridiculously high or you don't have to trade for those guys. So the break in case of emergency arm for the Philadelphia Phillies at the major league level. Joe Ross, welcome to the squad. With Milwaukee last year, good staff, was a part of a good staff at a team that pitched in the postseason and played in the postseason and was knocked out by the Mets, same as you. So maybe he's familiar with the situation he's walking into, and he was in the NL East for a while to start his career. So I'm fine with the signing. I'm not overly crazy for the signing. Like, this is not Jesus Luzardo. This is not Max Kepler. This is not Jordan Romano. But this is another arm that is a major league caliber arm that could have upside in the right situation if he's needed to have upside. And what Dave Dombrowski said yesterday about Andrew Payter would make you believe that maybe Joe Ross has to have upside, because not the greatest news in the world on Andrew Payter, but not the worst. I'll tell you what Dave Dombrowski said and what it means for the Philadelphia Phillies young top prospect going forward as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. All right, let's talk about Game Time. Fair warning, I might sneeze during this ad read, so you can turn the volume down a little bit if you need to. But Game Time is focused on togetherness. That's what's important. Not me sneezing, not getting someone mittens for Christmas or a hat. No, they want to bring people together this holiday season at live events. The experience is that much better. It's the perfect gift. Getting your loved ones tickets to a comedy show, a concert, theater, a sports game, of course. Come on. There's a lot of great opportunities for you to make lifelong memories for people on your Christmas wish list, or you want to get it for ahead of New Year's. Hey, start the new year. Your resolution is to go to more games. Here's tickets to this. Go to more concerts. There's never a bad time to give tickets to an event as a gift. And if you're going to do that, there's only one place to get them. It's Game Time. They have everything taken care of. They got the new Game Time Picks feature, which curates tickets to your needs, and you don't have to wade through millions and billions of tickets. It sets that up for you. All in pricing, you can toggle this feature to show the total up front, and you don't get hit by surprise fees at the end. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find seats in the same row and section for less anywhere else. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time, whether they're for you or a gift for somebody else. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? You already know it, folks. Nope, not just Christmas time. That's right. It's Game Time. All right, so let's talk about this Andrew Payter conversation, because Dave Dombrowski spoke about Andrew Payter and really kind of walked through where he's at and what the plan is for him going forward, or the potential plan for him going forward, and was asked about spring training, because Andrew Payter, before he had the Tommy John issue 2 years ago, was in Major League spring training, made one start, and then had elbow discomfort, and then went for Tommy John surgery, and then has been recovering since. And it's just been a long road back for Andrew Payter, as it always is for Tommy John surgery. It's not that he's progressing slowly or anything. We talked in a previous episode about how he pitched in the Arizona Fall League. He made like a couple of starts out there, looked pretty good, was the Arizona Fall League Pitcher of the Year. So, yeah, he's still got his good stuff. He's still a very talented pitcher. He still looks darn dominant as far as the level he's at right now. Still hasn't pitched at the major league level. So the thought is, hey, could Andrew Payter make his debut this year? He should make his debut this year. What does that role look like? And again, my argument was always, he's not going to be on the team to break camp. He's going to be the guy waiting in the wings for when somebody goes down. It seems that Dave Dombrowski somewhat agrees with me on that, but the way he went about saying it was kind of interesting. So he was asked about what Andrew Payter will do if he will pitch in spring training, and Dombrowski said he'll throw but not plan on pitching, which I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird because he pitched in the Arizona Fall League. But I guess they saw what they needed to out of him in the Arizona Fall League, and they say, okay, we just want to work on your arm a little bit more. We don't need to see you pitch in active games. You're not going to be on the team breaking camp because we have a full rotation. We have Wheeler, we have Nola, we have Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo. We do not have Taijuan Walker currently in the starting rotation. At least they better not. That would be the craziest thing in the world. I would give up my fandom if Taijuan Walker gets a starting spot in the rotation over any of those guys, unless it's like due to injury. And even then, give it to Joe Ross first. Give it to Andrew Payner first. No, keep Taijuan Walker out of that starting rotation and probably off the baseball team. But anyway, I digress. I'm sorry. I feel like I've been mean to Taijuan Walker lately. It's almost Christmas. So, Taijuan, I hope you find a job pitching for another team. How about that? But back to Andrew Payter. It's weird that he wouldn't pitch in spring training, but I guess they have this faith that he is the pitcher that they see, and they don't want to waste his bullets, right? They don't want to waste innings in spring training. They want to put him through a throwing plan that gets him ready for a season where he could contribute at the major league level, but is going to be on an innings restriction. So Dave Dombrowski went on to say that he would build up at some point in the minor leagues and could make his major league debut some point in the summer for the Philadelphia Phillies. So that sounds like a roundabout way of saying what I'm saying without specifically saying the scenario. Because, and you see this with front office members around sports, right? People are like, well, why won't they just say what the plan is? Because if you say, well, the second somebody goes down in the major league rotation, Andrew Payner is going to be our guy. And then somebody gets hurt in spring training. Well, then everyone's going to be like, where's Payner? Where's Payner? Where's Payner? Like, dude, I've just told you he wasn't going to throw in spring training, but because I said specifically if someone gets hurt, he's our guy to replace them, now I'm held to that by the media. I'm held to that by the fan base. I might be held to that by the player. And you want to keep things a little bit more fluid than that. It gives you a little room to operate, which is what the right way to handle it is. So I would imagine that I've got it pretty much pegged down, right? When you look at what Dave Dombrowski's saying, some point in the summer he could come up. He's going to work up in the minors. That's it. You stash him in AAA. If there's an opening in the rotation, you go, okay, Andy, you got it. As long as you trust that he's gotten enough work in the minor leagues that he's ready to go to the major leagues, and you're not going to waste too much of his innings count that he's going to undoubtedly have. Like Andrew Payner will be on an innings restriction this year. I guarantee you. But I think this is also a way to handle that innings restriction by not throwing him in spring training. So if you're going down to Clearwater and you're like, wow, I'll get a chance to see Andrew Payner pitch. I'm excited to see what the kid has. You might watch him throw bullpens. Maybe you'll see him throw live to batters during practices, and you can do all that down in Clearwater at the Phillies spring training complex. But it doesn't sound like you're seeing him in spring training games. And that's okay, because I don't think there's any doubt who the first man up is if you need a starter from the minor leagues this year. He's ready to go. He looks healthy. This is just more a way of Dave Dombrowski kind of trying to save the arm while also trying to, and I say Dave Dombrowski, this is a concerted effort by the Philadelphia Phillies organization. He doesn't just make this call. He's talked to pitching coaches. He's probably talked to Payner, talked to his agent. Probably a lot of people have been in this conversation to decide what they're going to do with Andrew Payner this year. So they'll build him up, and they'll be careful with him, and they'll find out a way to do it. But I mean, just listen to this, right? Because I'm reading an article right now from ESPN, and the final little paragraph here is, Payter sprinted through Philadelphia's system in 2022, going 6-2 with a 1.48 ERA and 26 appearances spread across 2 single-A teams and double-A Reading. Like, he's ready for AAA. He's ready for the majors. He was the Arizona Fall League Pitcher of the Year last year. This guy is a stud. Just, you don't need to figure anything out in spring training about Andrew Payner. You don't. And if you want to figure out what he's like against major league pitching, you'll find that out when he plays on the major league team. Doing it in Clearwater or Dunedin or whatever Florida town that teams play in that you want to, Sarasota, that you want to send people to play in those split squad games against other teams, minor leaguers, it's not going to get it done. They'll bring him up when they need to. He has the talent. So this is not a bad thing. I don't want anyone to hear this news about Andrew Payner not pitching in spring training and think it was a setback or it's a lack of trust. It's just, if we have him throw competitive innings, we feel different about what the taxing effects that has on his arm mean than if he just throws bullpens, throws in a more controlled environment, goes through a workout program, goes through like a long toss program, all of these things that guys do that are coming off of injuries, whether they're young pitchers or not, that work them back into shape to be ready to throw competitively in the regular season. So an interesting update on Andrew Payner, but not one that once you dive a little bit deeper than face value seems to be anything different than what I've been telling you should be the plan for Andrew Payner this year. So they figured out what they're doing with the rotation. They brought in a swing guy that could start and could also throw in the bullpen. We got to go through another what's next breakdown for the Philadelphia Phillies. How do they follow up this Joe Ross signing? And what more is there to do for the Philadelphia Phillies as they continue to progress through a weirdly busy part of the offseason? Don't know where all these signings and trades and stuff have come from around baseball all of a sudden, but I guess people are trying to get stuff done before the Christmas holiday, and that prompts action. We'll talk about what's next coming up next as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about FanDuel because the NFL playoffs are almost here. Your birds are in them. So if you're a Philly fan, you know you're going to want to check that out, and you're going to want to check out how you can bet on them too. It's not too late to get in on the regular season action yet either with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. It's Christmas Eve, which means tomorrow we've got NFL action. By the way, we also have basketball going on, a lot of games. Sixers are playing. You can go ahead and check that out. There's a lot of stuff that you're going to want to hide away from your family for a little bit on Christmas and watch, and you're going to want to bet on with FanDuel. They have so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, maybe first basket if you're looking at the basketball action. There's a lot of different ways. You could also do parlays, props, teasers, futures, everything that you want, they got at FanDuel. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So go ahead and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So what's next for the Philadelphia Phillies? Let's just really quick run through what they've accomplished already this offseason as far as the major league level is concerned. They got Jordan Romano, high-level bullpen arm. They got Max Kepler, starting caliber outfielder. Now, you could upgrade on that, but he is a starting caliber outfielder at the major league level for a team like the Philadelphia Phillies that have deficiencies in the outfield. Like, let's be real. Max Kepler, if the season started today, would probably be your starting left or right fielder, and then you'd move Castellanos to the other corner spot. Then you go out and you make the biggest move so far, and you trade for Jesus Luzardo over the weekend. Your rotation is pretty set. I said yesterday, I think that's like that's the final thing that you needed in the rotation. A really good name that we hadn't really talked about at all as being a possibility. So these weird things kind of happen out of nowhere. I believe I brought that point up in the Jesus Luzardo episode, but even if I hadn't, I brought that up in the Max Kepler episode. Like, I bring that up every time because it's rarely the guys that we expect the Phillies to go get that they go get. And sometimes that does play out, sometimes it doesn't. But we don't know everything. We don't have all the rumors out and every rumor comes true. Sometimes it's guys that just come out of the woodwork that end up being big-time signings. Jeff Hoffman, Matt Strahm, guys like that could make major impacts with the Philadelphia Phillies team. More on Jeff Hoffman in a little bit. But then you see this move for Joe Ross. So you have a swing starter and you have a guy that you can add to the bullpen. So currently in the bullpen, you have Ross, and you have Jose Ruiz, you have Tanner Banks, you have Matt Strahm, you have Jordan Romano. So that's 5 guys right there. You have a Ryan Kirkering. Who else am I missing? Jose Alvarado. So that puts you at 7 guys. You're probably going to need to, I don't think I forgot anybody there. If I did, let me know, because Estevez is still a free agent and Hoffman is still a free agent. You probably need to add one more guy that you feel good about to the major league bullpen. You could probably go get 2 more guys that are major league caliber and just put one of them on a minor league deal and have them ready in case, like, let's say a starter goes down, then Joe Ross moves into the rotation or Andrew Payner comes up or whatever. But you have a hole in the starting rotation. You might want to move someone from the bullpen to that spot, and then you can call somebody else up. So you never can have too many bullpen arms. You can never have too many major league caliber starting pitchers. Like, you could still add to that. But things are starting to get settled in a little bit. We're going to actually later this week, as long as no other like major moves get made. We're going to have a breakdown of, I want to go through the bullpen and kind of match up mano a mano this year's bullpen, or what looks to be this year's coming bullpen, and last year's, and how they really go head to head as far as positions that they're going to employ in the bullpen. But I think the Phillies have done a solid job of resetting the bullpen and bringing in the guys they need to make sure they have comfortable arms to go to. I don't think that they have anybody in those 7 names that I just listed where I say, I'm worried if that guy can pitch at the major league level. I guess Joe Ross would probably be the number one guy that I'd be like, I don't know if that guy is here. And he is a guy that can start too and pitched in Milwaukee last year. So maybe that's not fair. It's just, he's got a weird track record when it comes to 2 seasons in between 2021 and 2024. He didn't pitch in 2020. So he's pitched 2 of the past, what is that, 5 available Major League Baseball seasons. That's the only worry about that, is how consistent can that be. But they got major league arms. There's a lot of teams that will have to trot out guys that they don't know if they could pitch in the bullpen. So that's a good thing for the Philadelphia Phillies. You still have one more spot. So if the Alec Bohm stuff is not happening, and that will open up a lot more. We talked about it in yesterday's episode. If they trade Alec Bohm, well, then you got to go get a third baseman. You got to see what you acquire for Alec Bohm. At this point, if you were to trade Alec Bohm, it would be one of 2 things. It would be an outfielder. It would be a plus reliever. And if you get a plus reliever, then you don't have to sign anybody else, which is why I want that to happen first. But I said that in yesterday's episode, and then by the time I was posting the episode later that night, they had already gone out and signed another reliever. So who knows what they're going to do there. But barring an Alec Bohm trade, which is still very, very possible, the only other things you could do, you could sign one more bullpen arm as far as roster size is concerned. I guess you could add one more piece in the outfield, and that would move Brandon Marsh and Yohan Rojas into depth roles, but that would have to be a starter. And I don't know if the Philadelphia Phillies are looking to commit that money if they don't know if they're moving Alec Bohm yet. So the Phillies are putting the finishing touches on what this roster is going to look like. They really are. There's not too much more to think about as far as who you bring in and who you sign and everything like that. The rotation is set. You're not going to trade Alec Bohm for a starting pitcher anymore, because not only do you have 5 in the starting rotation that you feel good about, you have a 6th on the outside looking in and Taijuan Walker that's going to be fighting to try and keep some job with the organization. You have Andrew Payter. You have now Joe Ross. That brings you up to 6, 7, 8 guys that could potentially be starters at the major league level for the Philadelphia Phillies right now. And that's not counting guys that made starts last year, like Tyler Stevens and who am I missing? There are other guys, and Michael Mercado was another guy that came up and made a couple of starts for the Tyler Phillips. See, so many guys pitch over the course of a season that you forget names here and there, but they have these guys in the organization still. It's not even counting those. You count those 2, you're up to 10 guys that have recent Major League Baseball starting pitching experience, or in Payter's case, major big time prospects. So pitching feels pretty good. The offense, if you look at the starters, should feel pretty good if you trust them to be as talented as they were last year. And I know that doesn't help people for the postseason. You want to see new flashy names and everything. So it feels fresh, and you don't feel like you're heading for more of the same when it comes to the offensive approach and the players that you have and the big name guys. People get tired of teams that don't win it all quick in the city. And I get it, but you still have talent as far as that's concerned. So I don't know. I look at it and I say, you're in a pretty good spot. And there are probably, yesterday I said 3 or 4 impact moves that you have left. Cut that down to 2 or 3 now. 2 or 3 impact moves that the Philadelphia Phillies have left. And by impact moves, I mean people that will have a roster spot on the 26-man opening day Major League roster, barring any injuries, of course, because I don't want to lock these guys in. We're not nearly to our roster predictions yet. And I'm going to I guess I'll have to start that. No, I'll do it in spring training. I'm trying to remember where I go to things throughout the course of the offseason content planning schedule. But at some point before the start of the regular season, we will begin to put together our opening day roster projections and see how close we can get. But another nice move by the Philadelphia Phillies. This is not one that anyone's going to write home about, but it's one that gives them a versatile piece for emergencies going forward. Andrew Payner sounds like he's going to be good to go to make a debut at some point in 2025, and they're going to limit his time in spring training to make sure that he does that with as many bullets in the chamber as he can. And the Phillies still have a couple of things to work out, and maybe something big throws a wrench in this whole thing if they move Alec Boehm and then have to bring in a starting third baseman all of a sudden out of nowhere. So the offseason could be pretty boring the rest of the way, or could it be pretty interesting? And it all depends on how much the Phillies want to move their all-star starter third baseman. See, it's never boring in Philadelphia, even when sometimes it's a little boring. But Joe Ross, welcome to Philly. And everybody else, have a Merry Christmas. If I don't talk to you tomorrow on another episode, and I got to find time away from the Christmas holiday, so I may just take the day. But thank you so much for supporting Locked On Phillies. I'm very thankful for all of you out there. Please make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, you're rating and reviewing and everything. Once again, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. But I hope you enjoy the Christmas holiday if you celebrate, and whatever holidays you celebrate, I hope you get to enjoy time with your loved ones. This is a great time of year to spend time with the people you care about most. And you took some time to spend it with me here on Locked On Phillies, so I genuinely really appreciate that. And I will talk to you on our next episode.